Buongiorno ragazzi, siamo qui tutti per ascoltare una lezione fatta dalla nostra compagna di scuola Lena, che viene dal Canada e ci racconterà come si studia la trigonometria in Canada. Bellissimo. Prego, Dag.
So trigonometry is the relationship between the sides and the angles of a triangle. I Google searched that this morning. And then one of the most important things about trigonometry is this word. And before I explain what is in that word, I'll show you the different symbols in Canada because they're very different. So this, in Italy, means this. In Canada, this means an angle. The name of it is theta, but it actually means an angle. And it goes on like this. So cos x is cos theta in Canada, and TGX is tan theta in Canada. So then we get back to this weird word, and I've known this since I was little. In Canada, they teach us this like right off the bat. So this means sine. This is cos, and this is tangent. And then this means opposite. This means hypotenuse. And this A is adjacent. Now, on a triangle, opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent are all different sides of the triangle. So, if you draw a triangle, not big enough. This means that it's a right angle triangle, so that it has an angle of 90 degrees here. And you're given an angle here. You can find out which side of the triangle is hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. You can do so by doing this little trick. If you put a little man on the corner here, and you see if he was looking across the triangle, whatever side he sees first is your opposite, or O. And if you look to the side, whatever side he sees first is adjacent, or A. And then the diagonal line is always the hypotenuse. So now, if I give you a right angle triangle, and what does this mean? What does that mean? Well, if you got a triangle on like a test, and they showed you where the angle was, and they wanted you to find that. They wanted you to find that angle. And they gave you, let's just say 2 numbers. They gave you 5 and 3. You then have to figure out what side you have, and what one of these you can use to find the angle. So if you have here, you have the H and the A. Which ones here have both the A and the A? A and the H. Ka. So that means that you could use cosine to find the angle. So the equation is like this. Or in this case, it would be 3/4. So let's do one more. So if you had, let's say, 5 and 4, which one could you use? Which one of these could you use? And why can you use Toa?
Because we have O and A.
Exactly. This one is A. Or O, sorry, just kidding. And this one is A. So then your equation would be tan theta equals O over A, or 5 over 4. And you can also do it if they gave you just the angle. So if they gave you an angle and not one of the other sides, like if they gave you this was the angle 30, per se, and they gave you just the 4, which one could you use? Which one could you use, sorry, to find a side? I don't know what I'm saying. Just kidding, ignore that. I don't know what else to say. So now we can do like a lesson or an exercise to see if we can use this in doing an equation, I guess. So I'm going to erase all of this. Alright, so now we'll do an exercise on the board. So let's just say we have a river. And we have this little guy in a boat over here. And he wants to get to his house over here. And he knows that it's 10 kilometers across the river. But because there's a current going this way, he gets pushed up over here by 5 kilometers. And he knows that he's 15 degrees off where he should be. So he now knows that he needs to get from here to here. But the thing is, he doesn't know how long the distance that is, so he needs to figure it out. So to figure it out, the first thing you do is you separate your big triangle into 2 right-angled triangles. Because you can't do trigonometry without 2 right-angled triangles. That's only when this rule works. So now, the next thing you do is you see what sides you have to find. So here you have to find 2 sides. You have to find x and y. But you know that you already have an angle and an h. So then the next thing you have to do is you have to go up to your favorite word, Soh-Cah-Toa, and you have to figure out which one of these you should use. Now there's one here that you can't use. Which one is it?
Toa.
Thank you, Ruche. And you can't use it because it doesn't have an h in it. So the only thing you have would be the angle. But you need 2 out of the 3 things to use one of these equations. So you can actually use these first 2. So we'll start with sine, and the equation is sine theta equals O over H. And then you can supplement in your values. So you go sine 15 degrees equals O over 5. And then you multiply both sides by 5, and you get 5 sine 15 equals O, or in this case, y. And then you can use Ka to find x. You do cos and so now that you have these 2 sides, you then need to figure out your next side on this triangle. So the way to do that is you know that this whole length is 10. And you know that if we call this half of that length z, you then know that x plus z has to equal 10. So you already know x, so then what can you do?
10 minus x.
Exactly, Luce. So smart. So you go down here and you go z equals 10 minus x, and then you have x here, so you can put it in here. So now that you have 2 of your sides of the triangle, I'm going to write them over here just so we have them, and I'll erase that. So now the next step you'll do is here you now have two sides of the triangle. And to find the hypotenuse, you use what's called the Pythagorean theorem, which is adjacent squared plus opposite squared equals hypotenuse squared. And in this case, it would actually be y squared plus x or z squared equals m squared. Means same thing. And then from here, you can add in the numbers you have. You don't really need x anymore, so we'll just take that away. And you put them in here. So it's 5 sine 15 degrees, all squared, plus 10 minus 5 cosine 15 degrees, all squared, equals m squared. So once you have all your numbers in, then you can expand them. And by expanding them, I mean this. Like that, and then you simplify it to equal So now that you have this, you can rearrange it so that this coast is right beside this side. And you'll see why in a second. So if you take out the 25 from here, you get 25 sine squared 15 plus cos squared 15. And that resembles what? This thing.
1.
1.
The rule of 1, exactly. So you basically cross this out because it's 1. So then you're left with, move it up here, you're left with 25 plus 100 minus 100 cos 15 equals m squared. And then from there you can start to combine things. So 25 plus 100 is 125. And then here you would use a calculator and you'd find what cos 15 is and then times it by 100. And it gives you 96.593 equals m squared. So then you combine those two and you get m squared equals 28.407. And then what do you do next? Exactly. Because you can't forget about that too. Or that square. And then you're left with 5.33. And in this case, it would be kilometers. So he has to travel from here to here, 5.33 kilometers. Goodbye. You're welcome.